Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. We open in the fictional nation of Sardoon under the cover of darkness. The antagonist Duke Guerera has crossed over the border for the 4th time this month and taken hostages from an oil refinery. He's the type of guy to cheat in a friendly game of chess with his aide and have him read out some homemade manifesto to the hostages.
To the global powers.
Halfway through, Duke gets bored of trying to make them understand his reasoning, so just cuts him off and orders his tanks to open fire. They obliterate the Sardunian oil supply, then retreat to the safety of their own country, Gambia, before somebody calls the police. They're almost intercepted in the morning by Sardunian forces who open fire on the Gambian tanks with their own, but they manage to cross the border. General Byrne-White of Sardoon orders his men to finish off the enemy while they have them on the run, but he's ordered to stand down. Major Zara doesn't want any of their people to cross into enemy territory because that would be a declaration of war, so they just let Duke walk all over them. Since she's the president's daughter, she pretty much answers to nobody, so gets on a plane with Whitey and travels to what looks like the same desert. She's organized to meet with an elite phantom military called Megaforce, whose mission statement says to preserve freedom and fight tyranny. However, they're also the outfit that inspired Team America, so professionalism takes a backseat to whatever they think looks cool. Byrne-White and Zara get dropped somewhere in the middle of the scorching desert for a rendezvous with one of the members. While posing for her photoshoot and fixing up her makeup, Zara arouses the attention of a rattlesnake with a broken rattler. It creeps up to her without announcing itself, but is blown to pieces by the cowboy hat wearing chewing tobacco branded Dallas. He introduces himself as a member of Megaforce but doesn't look like a high-tech gadget-wielding super soldier, so Whitey demands his rank. Dallas claims that nobody in Megaforce has a rank except for the commander, then either compliments Zara or insults her, I'm not really sure.
Kind of officer that makes bivouacking in the woods seem downright desirable.
He then demonstrates his truck's ability to project a hologram of a girl on a beach, and since there's only guys in Megaforce, this thing is well used. Inside the vehicle we meet Agent Zachary, who listens to Vivaldi but gets asked by Whitey if it's Gladys Knight and the Pips. They drive 3 racisms into the desert where they wait for the commander to arrive with his tight spandex and tricked out attack motorcycle. On his way with 2 comrades, they get ambushed by exploding sky melons, so counter them with mounted machine guns and missile launchers. They make it through like that's a regular occurrence, and the commander jumps over their guests to make a dramatic entrance. He then pulls up to greet the Sardunians and removes his helmet to reveal that Ace Hunter was a big fan of the Karate Kid. Completely ignoring Whitey when he notices Zara, Commander Cool says, "Hey babe, how do you like my baby blue headband?" She's angry for sending a redneck to pick them up, so he says, "Go to Disneyland if you're looking for customer service, because we do things differently in the Megaforce." Everyone departs, but Hunter begins to have a tantrum, so Dallas tries to cheer him up by telling him about the rattlesnake. Megaforce recruits come from different countries as indicated by the patches on their sleeves like Lopez and Suki, but Dallas wears a Confederate flag. They return to their 10 million square foot underground facility designed to withstand a nuclear blast and house their vehicles. The head researcher, Professor Eggstrum, tells Hunter that he's been working on making the bikes fly, but he can only activate it at the end of the movie. They give their guests a tour of the weapons hangar and say that they're funded by every country's governments, who also supply their best soldiers. Their vehicles have a photosensitive skin that darkens at night, then returns to this same dorky tan pattern during the day. When they go out on missions, they're accompanied by a control van called the TACCOM, driven by the director of the movie. An enemy bazooka team sneaks up on the truck during one of their raids, but he simply presses a button and they completely disappear. Zara goes to her guest's quarters and puts on her military uniform but unbuttons her blouse to catch the commander's attention. He arrives wearing his headband as a cravat and pretends to look at Zara's accolades in an awkwardly flirtatious exchange. She says that you can tell a lot about a person by looking at their chest, but Ace wasn't looking at the service ribbons. One hand touch of sexual tension later, and they go to dinner to talk about the mission and how they're going to defeat the Gambians. Hunter reveals that he was once best friends with Duke before he turned into a mercenary, so Suki is flabbergasted. We then relocate to a briefing room where the commander lays out their operation with a hologram table. First they'll blow up Duke's compound, then Megaforce him across the Sardunian border, which everyone agrees is a brilliant idea. Dallas then puts on his favorite show when Zara says that she intends to join the team on its mission. Everyone agrees that would be stupid, but since she's the president's daughter and Hunter has a crush, he puts Zara through basic training. First she parachutes out of a plane, which is a necessity for Megaforcing, then flies a helicopter because this is quite the lame duck training course. Finally she moves on to the good stuff like a simulated tank versus dune buggy battle, which she passes with ease. However, Hunter says she's still not going because Megaforce needs to operate as a single unit, but I think he's just pissed she beat his top score. Adding a new person to the team, especially one with boobs, would just make Hunter get everybody killed, as he would constantly be distracted. During the mission he wears his tightest satin onesie which rides up in the front to keep him on his toes and in the back for aerodynamics. The tacky belt really brings it all together, and Hunter says his goodbyes to Whitey before Zara, who tells him that she understands why she can't go. She then kisses the commander, so he thinks that it would look cool to use a strut like a stripper pole and swing into the cargo bay. They then share a thumb kiss thrust move which they either came up with right now on the spot or is just something people do. It's better than some patented movie shows of affection I suppose, and Megaforce prepare to airdrop themselves into Gambia. On the way we're introduced to two more members, the French Anton and the Native American Sixkiller, who uses the wall beside Lopez's head for target practice. When they reach their destination, Megaforce paradrop themselves into Gambia with each member already on his megabike or megabuggy. They mount a full-scale invasion of Duke's base with missiles that fire off in random directions but blow the tanks up directly in front of them. Buggies fire lasers as they zip around the compound, but despite all the explosions, Duke and his entire army survive unscathed. When the sun rises, the team travels to an airdrop supply depot to refuel and enjoy some holograms of the babe at the beach. It doesn't take long before a scout notifies Duke of their location, and he shows up in a helicopter all by himself. He greets Hunter as an old friend, and their entire rivalry apparently stems from Duke stealing Hunter's lighter back in military school. They bury the hatchet because he says he thought that he gifted it to him, when just then Zara and Whitey arrive in their own helicopter. They're surprised to see Duke, but the convoluted rules of war dictate that they can't just shoot this man in the face for some reason. They tell Hunter that Megaforce isn't allowed to cross the border into Sardoon, or else their attack last night will be considered a declaration of war. Duke will then be allowed to attack the Sardunians, but he's already doing that every other night, so none of this makes sense. Either way, the Sards leave, but not before Hunter and Zara share their little thumb kisses from 10 feet away, or 9 3/4 if you include the bulge. Megaforce must now get airlifted home, so Duke offers Hunter the chance to live because there's only one place in Gambia flat enough to land their plane, and his line of tanks are already waiting there. Hunter's men must surrender, but he refuses, so the villain cackles away as he leaves to rejoin his army in a dried up lake. Despite the fact that they could do a few trips in a helicopter basically anywhere in this desert, Hunter comes up with a different plan. He says that they're going to drive straight through the middle of the tanks and Megaforce themselves onto the sandy runway. The pilot is told to fly back and forth in front of the army to distract them, and it works because not a single Gambunian turns their head around. Megaforce then sneak up behind them, if you can call it that, and open fire so that the tanks turn around and the plane can land. It touches down within range of the cannons, but then drives like a mile out of it instead of just landing at a safer distance. It then waits for the team to battle their way towards it, and Hunter finally gets to use one of his thigh grenades to blow something up. The only other identifiable Mega member in this whole exchange is Dallas, because he brought along an entire Confederate flag. When they get in front of the tanks, Megaforce release multicolored smoke trails to block the enemy's line of sight, and it doubles as looking pretty. So pretty, in fact, that Hunter falls off his bike in a moment of pure bliss, and none of his team even bother to go back for their commander. They just reach the plane and abandon their high-tech equipment instead of blowing it up to prevent the enemy from getting it. They wait for the commander but aren't able to see him through the smoke, so they take off before the cannons get in range. He would probably already be on board if he didn't go back to taunt Duke, then just hope that he doesn't get shot in the back. Realizing that his lift has already departed, Hunter engages Egg's new invention, which deploys wings and a green screen to get this thing airborne. Megaforce cheer as he soars through the air, doing risky barrel rolls and praying that gum on the bottom of his shoe holds. He makes it on board the plane and they all mega celebrate, but Duke still gets the last laugh because he stole Hunter's lighter again.
I'll see you another time!
The transport plane then flies over a press conference in Sardoon where White denies all knowledge of the Megaforce incursion. Hunter blows up his personal helicopter, which Zara just laughs about, and gives the commander an overzealous thumb kiss. He gives one right back into a freeze frame, and not a single person was killed on screen in all of that mess unless you count disappearing bazooka teams. And the movie ends.